Yeah, there.
Timber-
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first thing we have on the agenda is the approval of the May 7th minutes. Does anybody have any discussion on those? No?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion second to approve the May 7th minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are carried. Second thing we have is the approval of the May 23rd special meeting as presented. Any discussion on those minutes?
Make a motion to accept them as submitted.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are carried. Okay, we're up to public comment. Any public comment aside from our presentation? Okay. And we will move on to discussion items. So first of all, congratulations to Tammy for her re-election, and welcome Jake Davies, who's in our crowd. Who will join us on the board in July. July 2nd will be our first reorganizational meeting where we'll be welcomed and joining us at the table. Regarding our advisory committees, everybody just think about any changes they want to have for 24-25. When we do our orientation, Jake will talk about what committees we have and what your interests are, and we'll kind of get that formulated. Corey does a good job of organizing us and making sure we don't have quorum in any of our committees and the functions of them. Our policy committee has set some guidelines on how our committees function and why they function the way they do, so we'll be able to introduce some of that this time for orientation. So we'll start picking that up after July 2nd. Okay, virtual summer law conference is available July 28-29, 8:30 to 12. Dr. McDonald plans on attending that. Is anyone else interested in that virtual seminar? If you are, and if you want to check your availability, just forward to Corey. Let Corey know if you're available to do that, if you want to attend that. Yeah, virtual. Okay, sports merger discussion. Dr. McDonald and Mr. Hoover.
So on here tonight, we added, and I sent these, I believe, in a Friday letter as well, but we have 4 different documents that we had talked about, was information that had been requested. so that the board could have further discussion leading to next meeting's need to vote on merging for next year. So we have the classifications for next year, the classification breakdown of the teams, so we know what the competitions are, and the projection sheet, and then additional survey responses from the spring. So, there for your discussion, and Mr. Hoover's here to answer any questions that you can answer tonight.
And based on this,
Yeah,
we
myself.
need to have our decision by our June 18th meeting.
It'll be
That's-
on the agenda for voting
Yep.
at that meeting.
Just to meet our MAC league time requirements,
Yep.
time frame, so that they can get the schedules out for next year. So we have to have that definitely taken care of by the 18th. So whatever we need, we can take as much time to discuss it that night. But I think, does anybody have anything on here that they don't see when you're cruising through that you would like to see added to this? If not, then this is what we'll kind of work off of and have discussion based on that.
I don't think I need additional information, but I do have one question. I noticed in the responses, a lot of parents, yay or nays, all the way across. But one of the comments stood out that if Downsville only has one or two students participating in a particular sport, why are we transporting all of our kids to practice there? So I thought that was something that maybe we could look at to see if,
Well,
depending on the
and-
size,
sure.
do we really need to transport everybody there for one or
Right.
two students?
Well, Mr. Hoover can answer that. I mean, it's really.
We tried this past winter to have all of our practices right after school. In the past, we did a 3 to 5 time slot and then a 5:30 to 7:30 time slot, just about every night. With the extra gym space, our goal, and we were successful with that, is to have all our practices from the 3:15 to 5:15, 5:30 time slot. That's not necessarily something that has to happen, but we heard complaints in the past about late practices 5:30 to 7:30, and we're able to adjust that. I mean, we did it for a number of years, that 5:30 to 7:30 slot in the past, and it was fine, so
Right.
there's nothing to say we can't go back to that. We also played more, percentage-wise, more boys basketball games over there, and that was, at the time, we were having issues with our gym floor with the new surface, and it was slippery. And by the end of the season, we kind of figured it out to make it so it wasn't. But the number of our student athletes, mostly were from Walton on that team, and complained about that and said, we feel like we're going to fall down playing here. And we had officials fall early in the year, and players, both boys and girls. So
Right.
that was kind of the reason to.
All right, well, that was one thing that stood out to me, and maybe that was something that we could
Yeah.
consider
Yeah.
if it, moved forward.
And it is on the list for the games, for the same exact
Right.
thing, but in the game standpoint, that if we have, this year it's more of a 50-50, 60-40, but if there's a lower number of students from Downsville on a specific team, then there's gonna be less games there and more games here. So if it's an 80-20, it's an 80-20 year. So
Okay.
that's on the list for the athletic directors to correct, or to address, not really correct.
Could you just discuss how the projections are done for the?
Yeah, so our projections are based on students who played a sport last year. Where it gets a little tricky is the 6th graders. We had them kind of do a straw poll in their advisor classes, and it's easy there when your buddies are raising their hand to play a sport to raise your hand also and be counted. So probably the modified numbers are, at least on the Walton, a little bit inflated for some sports. But the other sports we took, if we had an 11th grader who played basketball last year, it doesn't always work out that way, but we project that they would play it again next year as a senior. I'm actually, update doesn't help us right now, but I updated that sheet today with our signups we have from our PE classes, so they're a little bit different.
So we'll add the update for the next meeting.
Okay, any other discussion on the merger? So we'll have a decision by the 18th.
We'll have a full discussion of the.
I would plan on a full discussion. Yep, it's gonna be a standalone item.
Okay.
Yep. I think no reason not to have ample time to discuss all details.
If there's any other questions or pieces of data that we can provide, let us know, or let Graydon know, or whatever it is, we can put it together for you.
Okay, the NISBA annual convention will be October 20th through the 22nd in New York City. So we kind of need to finalize the list to see who's able to attend no later than our July 2nd meeting. I'm not interested in traveling down there, and I definitely would love to punt the virtual annual meeting to another board member, just so they can experience it.
That comes with the position.
Just so they can experience what a nice thing that is. But registration opens July 30th, but we want to get a handle on it by July 2nd if we want to travel down there. We should also be considering if we're going to have a board retreat next school year, or maybe in the fall. If we decide not to go to the NISBA conference, we could potentially save money there by not sending people there and put it to better use, put it to different use, to sponsor a retreat for ourselves, to get together on topics that are more local and more of interest to us. So if that's what we want to do, we can definitely head that direction if we don't have a lot of interest in people going to the convention. But we can keep that as an ongoing discussion through the second, right?
I know I won't be here next year to participate in that, but I do have to say that I am an advocate for the annual convention. The location sometimes is not ideal, but I feel that you get so much more out of that with the trainings, the classes, the vendor sessions, than you do with just the retreats, in my opinion. But
You definitely get exposed to more.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say that was my experience. I was first year, but the conference was really good, getting exposed to all the latest and greatest and different issues versus the retreat that we had here.
And it's interesting because you get to talk to so many other people that are from bigger cities or bigger school districts, and what's happening there may not hit us in a rural area right away, but it tends to come down, and I think it better prepares us that, hey, we brought this back from conference and this is what the school district is experiencing. And I just think that it's a good experience, in my opinion.
Okay, any other discussion items? Do not. So we're up to correspondence information. We received in your packet the letter from Senator Gillibrand, her letter of support for our mental health services grants program. So we thank her for that and that letter of support to bolster our grant opportunity.
That was the second one, not for the first one. This is the new one that we submitted not too long ago, 1.3.
1.3. Okay, and now our long-awaited presentation by the FFA chapter. Yeah, come on up.
Sure.
Welcome. Come on up to the podium. Absolutely.
Go to the screen.
2024 New York State FFA Convention. Day one, we attended workshops and took part in the day of service. Attending at the workshops we attended the workshops with information on becoming an ag teacher and the importance of FFA and agricultural programs in school. We participated in fun team building activities, made flower arrangements, and wrote thank you cards to a person of our choice.
Walton FFA received third place for membership growth in the state. That was on Friday, so that was a really cool thing for us, and we got to go on stage.
both completed and Junior prepared public speaking. Lauren spoke about Aiden, food, and chickens. Will talked about maple syrup.
So we attended many general sessions. Amelia, as a district board president, helped lead a general session.
We attended an activity night at a local baseball field where we met new friends and got to participate in many activities.
Mackenzie and Isabella received their Empire degrees on Saturday, and the Empire degree is the highest honor an FK member can achieve at the state level.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That was a good one to end on. Congratulations on the Empire degrees.
Thank you.
It's a lot of hard work.
So what was your overall experience? Has any of you attended conference before, or any first timers?
This was his first year. The rest of us, we've all done previous years.
Nice.
Will, did they do any presentations on truck pulling, Will? Did they have any Chevy big blocks, anything like that for you? Hey, you wish? I thought they'd get a smile.
So to get third place in the attendance, what did your attendance go up?
It was like, I want to say like, it was over 50%. I don't know the exact number. I want to say like 73% is the one that's coming up in my mind, but it's great.
Great.
Like that.
Nice. Very nice.
I had the honor of attending your banquet, and a very nice job to all of you. It was great to see everybody in official dress. It was very well attended, so it was nice to see the support from all the family members that were there. So I think it's exciting times for Walton.
Thank you.
It's usually one that's very well attended. There's really good food there.
Yeah. We did hamburgers and hot dogs this year, so
Did
it was a
you?
little cheap, but they were all donated, so we couldn't like pass that up.
Right,
I
nice.
think there was 130 people.
Wow.
Very nice.
Excellent.
Very good.
Excellent.
Very happy for you.
Good.
So Mackenzie and Isabella, you're headed to college. Anything ag related?
I'm going for pre-vet.
Thank you very
Great,
much.
thank you. You're welcome to stay for the whole meeting. We should be done in less than 3 hours, or you can leave if you would like to. But thank you for the presentation, keeping us up to date.
Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Good.
Nicely done. Run.
Definitely want to leave.
You can tell. Yeah. Oops.
Have a good night.
Have a great night.
Thank you, guys.
Any addendum items?
We do not.
Okay. Consent agenda is next. Any discussion on any of the individual reports in the consent agenda? Any discussion on any of the individual items? No?
Sorry, actually I did, I was trying to think of what it was. We're surplusing baseball game jerseys. That was one of the other questions, with the merger. The different colors or different shirts that are being used. I think it was a couple of individuals had mentioned that, are we gonna go with the same color for all the sports? You know, the merged colors. I think they mentioned a gray, a purple, an orange, and some fluctuate in different sports. So that was one thing
Right.
that, are we gonna pick a color and just stick with that?
I think
If
the
that's a
merger
decision.
had that outlined, right?
Yeah.
Exactly what the transition plan was or was or
Yeah,
wasn't.
as we replace them, whether we have a uniform replacement schedule, we have to finalize the adjustments, so each school's kind of pulling their own weight as far as that goes. But
But
a
it is-
lot of the uniforms this year, it was who has a set that has the right sizes to fit the kids. Sometimes
Okay.
that ended up being a Walton set of uniforms, sometimes it ended up being a Downsville set of uniforms, so
Okay.
Uh,
So
I'd
if
like to
any
say
of
there
them
was
are
some
watching,
master
they might be
plan
able to
involved
hear
with it,
that.
but it was.
Right, but the merger
It's
card, I mean,
featured.
it's orange and purple, and then it's
Yeah.
different designs depending on it. And something to keep in mind is even now with our Walton uniforms, of course, it's orange and black, but we have variations. Some years, baseball had gray uniforms, with different colors, and there's different variations depending on the sport, depending on the year, depending on the design, so. Could there still be some gray with some purple and orange, and then some white and some, yeah, that can still happen, but the color is orange and purple, obviously, for the school colors.
Any other discussion on the consent agenda items? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Motion seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is carried. New business. First, we have accepting donations. We'd like to accept the following donations with sincere appreciation. $82 from TAs to the class of 2025 prom. $1,824 from the PTSA. We had a note change on that, right?
Later on, we had a
Okay,
change.
PTSA representing proceeds from a basket raffle, 50/50 raffle, bake sale, and donations to the class of 2025 prom. $272 from Paul Wood from 50/50 raffle to the class of 2025 for prom. $500 from the Delaware County Stop DWI to the class of 2024 for prom. $250 from the Walton Booster Club to the wrestling program for the purchase of singlets. $30 from Jack and Rebecca Butler to the Forensics Speech and Debate Club. $500 to the PTSA to the class of 2025 for prom. $123 from the parents to the Walton FFA chapter to go towards the FFA banquet dinner. And $459 from the PTSA to the Walton FFA chapter. Do we have a motion to accept those donations?
Make a motion to accept them.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Those are carried. Next, we have the adoption resolution authorizing the issuance of the serial general obligation bonds. And those are not to exceed $510,000 aggregate principal amount. For the finance and acquisition up to 3 school buses, estimated maximum cost of $510,000, and the levy of tax and annual installments of payments thereof.
And we need a supermajority for this.
Is it a
and
roll?
a roll call.
Okay. You gonna call it the roll?
Mhm.
Okay. Any discussion on those? Okay. Need a motion and a second?
Move it.
Second.
Motion second?
Okay, Mr. Charles,
Yes.
Mr. Dumond,
Yes.
Mr. Dutcher,
Yes.
Mrs. Tweedy,
Yes.
Mr. Verweer,
Yes.
and Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Thank you.
Got it?
Yes.
Okay. Next new business item is adopt a resolution related to the bond financings.
Make a motion to accept that.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is carried. Next, we have the approval of the accounting services agreement. This is our 3rd year of services with MAG. To date, for the 23-24 fiscal year, we've spent $4,687.50 with them, and they're used on a as-needed basis to assist with accounting issues and/or training. Any discussion on that services agreement?
So just to clarify, the 11,500 is the max amount? Okay.
Dr. McDonald, is this the group that works with Meg?
Correct.
Can come and present to us, you were saying, or is this different?
No, this is a different group.
This
This
is
is a group
okay.
that helps with day-to-day.
Okay.
What I was talking about was fiscal advisors,
Oh, okay.
which is another group that we work with, and different funding. So they do come out and they actually do a lot of trainings for NISBA related to fiscal and different things through school boards. And that's one of those options that if we wanted to do some specific trainings, we could go ahead and try to get them to come on down here on schedule.
Any further discussion with that? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion. Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. And next, we have the authorization of the architectural and engineering services proposal from Arcadis for the 2024-2025 capital outlay project. Any discussion on that?
How much of the fencing are they gonna do with this?
Depends on how the bids come in.
Okay.
So finishing up the soundboards is the only item that's not coming in as an add-all. And we're bidding the masonry on the chimney and the fencing on the parking lot side as one piece. So
Okay.
there's multiple gates and then connecting it so that the kids don't have an exit to the next street. And then the other side that actually Rhonda had brought up as a safety concern, North Street side of that, I think it's a 30-foot, if I remember correctly, span. So that's a second. So we broke them up, and then so we have more options to piece together from the bid because it's such a, it's only $100,000 project.
That'll finish all our sound panels, right?
Correct. That's the primary bid.
Yep.
And then the others are add-ons.
Any further discussion on that? If not, entertain a motion to authorize that.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is authorized. Next, we are up to fund impact bargaining, the WESPA impact bargaining MOA. Any discussion on that?
So this is just to bring those that are close to minimum wage up to minimum wage?
This
Previous?
is impact bargaining for the positions where when minimum wage was raised above, that it closed the gap or passed or surpassed employees that were already employed and on our payroll. So when it jumped to 14, maybe they're making 13, 15, and they've been here 3 years, or whatever the case would be.
I think that's still a problem with future budget or future agreements, that we really need to look at those starting salaries and make
absolutely.
sure that they are desirable
Yep, absolutely.
and keep that, don't just raise, the employees that are employed, but the starting salaries need to grow with that.
Yep, and we did
I think
apply
you did a lot
that
of that.
but it's interesting with minimum wage. We couldn't predict where New York State was gonna go with it. But the one thing that we could do, as a district, and we may wanna do, is we could do a market analysis with our positions, especially in this contract. It'll take a lot of work, but if we truly wanna see where we are competitively, not only with school-like positions, but other positions in our community and surrounding communities. We could go through that process as we get ready to enter into the next round of contract negotiations, and that would be next year. So if that is something that we want to do some work on, that is something that I can put some time in on so that we have a clearer picture.
I think that,
We did have to do it with bus drivers
right,
a few years ago, if you recall. Not bus drivers, but bus mechanics.
right. I think that in this day and age, we need to be competitive because of the workforce to begin with. And then also, these positions, I think, are one of our lowest paid positions that have huge amounts of responsibilities. I think it would be worth to see where we are. We don't want people leaving here, going elsewhere. And I know salaries, not everything, benefits are really good, within your school districts, but it may be something, I don't want to answer for that, but, you're saying that may be something that's worth looking into.
We can give it some thought, and I'll bring it up at a future meeting, and we can discuss that more.
What do you think a timeline like that to put together would be? Because when I'm talking, I guess what I'm at is we're talking future meetings. And I hear what you're saying, but I'm just trying to be realistic. If we start negotiating this fall, and on my own schedule, I'm not looking to have extra meetings in July, August.
We won't negotiate.
I'm just saying it's a.
No, we won't negotiate until second half of the year, early January, February, as far as the bargaining unit. What I would bring to you is a report to inform you, so when we're in the fall and we have a pre-negotiation conversation as a district, that's one of the items that we could review. So, if that's something that you desire to have done, then, that would give me lead time too,
Right.
The sooner I know, the better off I am. So we can put it together and work on it. And there's some tools out there, Department of Labor and various things too, that I can pull into the equation, but.
I mean, my comfort level is I would have them proceed with it. I don't think,
Right.
you can't go into that without data, right?
Right.
So.
And if we're
Now's
questioning our
a
base
good time
salary.
you have your approval, so you have your time clock started.
Okay,
Well, that's
we're good?
where I was at.
I just
If we
think-
wait till July or August to
Yeah.
give that, please do this,
Absolutely.
and it needs to be done by October, we're not giving you a lot of,
Yep.
where if it's.
Yeah, that'll give you a better
Want
picture.
to move on tonight, so.
Okay, all right.
Any other discussion on
I gave
the,
myself
on
homework.
the MOA?
It's better just to stay quiet.
What's that, Mr. Hoover?
It's all right.
Any further discussion on that? If not, I would
Tell me.
entertain a motion to approve that impact bargaining agreement.
Did you say Adam's the chair of that?
Second.
A motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. And finally, we are up to personnel appointments. Daniel Cole in the area of science, teaching position. Biology 712. A motion to approve that appointment.
Second?
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is carried. And now, Dr. McDonald, or Mr. Hoover, administrative remarks.
Yeah, this is actually the supervisor's night, so Mr. Hoover is off the hook on this one. So we have a report from Mr. Nolan and Mr. Wood, and technology did not have one this evening, which happens from time to time, as we know, depending on where the department is at. So just a couple highlights. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at Brett's report. The little library seems to be going over as a very big win with our parents and such, as they're waiting for their students. PTA has also been doing bake sales and different things out front. So as we have our parents gathering and to pick up grandparents to pick up the kids, they've had some activity out there. So
Nice.
and that's been well received. And then the other pictures are I'll call the Frainer Records Room, which has how it was developed, and they're on site today. I think, right?
They're gonna finish it tomorrow, the installation.
So they're already here doing the installation of the, what do you call it? What's the name?
High-density mobile shelving system.
There you go. So you wonder why I couldn't remember that one.
It looks good.
Right, so, yeah, it's terrific. And just to emphasize the importance of that, we had 18 boxes of records that got damaged 3 years ago.
Right, thankfully, 2 had to be dried out and kept. The rest were past retention.
So we got lucky. And that was because we had to run, as you remember, Ron, that you helped build the room down there. We put together a dehumidifier down there because it's so moist in the basement to protect the records. And we had to plug in the line, which happens from time to time, and ended up with a mini flood in the room. So Corey wrote a records grant, and we were able to get the grant that secured the funding to build this room. Now we'll put a state-of-the-art system in there, highly secured system in there for check-out, check-in, and we'll have a real best practice regarding records as we move in the future. So, right, hats off to Corey on this one.
Come a long ways.
And Millard is
And Millard.
blood and sweat in that room, so it's worked out very well. Some we can be proud of when it's finished.
When's the expected finish date? Move in and having all the records?
June 30th.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Be a photo op there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's great.
So terrific stuff. We continue. We had a meeting again today, actually 2 meetings today, construction-wise, one on the current, one on the future. Brett and I have started having every 2 weeks meetings with our architect, with Dan, refining and going through. Brett went through the BCS, the multi-page, and actually pulled items to question that weren't on the priority list, and looking at years of life left and various things. So there's a number of things that have ended up being pulled onto that priority list and added to it that we'll have to go over at our next facilities. Dan's next task will be to start adding some funding in some of those items that were not funded. Some of them will take a little longer, some of the structural explorations that need to happen. We have the one major one in the middle school, but Brett has identified 2 or 3 others throughout the district. So we'll see where we end up. Our list of things that are on there for potentially being done is growing for sure.
Huh.
So,
Imagine that.
it's interesting. But we're moving forward and working on that. Still fine on our timelines for that development of the next project, and other than everything's going well. The target review process that I mentioned, that we were a targeted district but not a targeted school. Don't have a single school targeted. It makes no sense to me how that happens. But we ended up being a targeted district for the subgroup of economically disadvantaged 3 through 8. Well, and regions, because district-wide on this one. Putting together the team. There's a prescribed team. We're going to end up doing it early in July. We'll have various specific to that subgroup action steps and targets that'll come out of there on the instructional side. And then we'll fold that into this year's strategic planning process, which we'll talk about at the July meeting. I have some adjustments to be made to that, some quantitative measures, some various things, kind of stiffening it up a little bit. Our process was a very good process, very collaborative process, but you can't have 27 items for a change. You have to have, 2 to 3, maybe 4 major goals that you're really truly going to dive into a year, and you need to have some quantitative measures so you can analyze what we're doing. So kind of meshed what was best practice forever, the new methodology, taking the best of both and putting it together. So I'll be presenting that in July, and that we have some work we're doing refining the process, and then we'll be ready to roll. So we're going through 2 strategic planning sessions this summer. Anybody who comes to the main one, well, they only have to go through 1. But we're going to do the first one with the target review for the DCIP, which is called District Continuous Improvement Plan, which is very similar to the old links process that we went through for years, and ironically, and then we'll move forward. That has to be completed and submitted to the state by the end of July. So my time frame, I got to move on it. I actually want to move on the next 2 weeks, and it's impossible to find a date after hours to get it done. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay? And we'll report back.
I think that's the toughest part, because there's a lot of things that you'd like to change, but then to get it down to where you can have a manageable amount to change,
Correct.
you know. 'Cause
What's
if you
your-
don't keep it manageable, it's not successful, and it's really, it's a waste of,
So what's this year's big priorities, and we're
Right.
also gonna bring it back to building levels. So where it was priority area level, instead of being overall priority area level, we'll get it specific to the building. And then in any given year, there could be a district goal. There could be another district department or a district goal as well that we have in there. That could come from the process, that could come from the board in any given year. So we'll have those 4 mechanisms. Some years it might only be 3 categories. And then there'll be 2 to 3 stretch goals, realistic goals that they're not realistic, prioritized goals that they have to really, get after. So that's kind of the overview of the change, if you can vision that. So, okay?
That's fine. I just have one reminder. We're going to have an executive session on the July 2nd meeting at the reorg, and that's just to finalize our evals, our evaluation of our board performance, as well as Dr. McDonald's. So that'll be our hard stop on July 2nd to have those done by. So we have the rest of June to finish those up, turn them in as you can, and if we're ahead of date, we're ahead of date. That'd be great. So that way we can discuss it and finalize them, and that'll be done. We'll set new goals for next year and go from there, if everyone's good with that. I have nothing further. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Was that a motion?
Yes.
Second. Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks for.
We are.